We are on day 3 of the 3-day Go Virtual Challenge. And this one is where we get to sell. Now, day 1, we did the very first step, and it's most important step, but most often overlooked is who is your person? Who is that specific person that you would love to work with for the next 5 years, 10 years, maybe, whatever it looks like, okay? Day 2, we created a program. Now remember, the 3 keys of a successful program is 1, a timeline, 2, a promise, and 3, by all means, have some confidence going into that program and inviting somebody into it, right? Now, for those of you who have a program, or maybe you're thinking about adding in a new program, or wherever your situation is, how do we sell it? Now, there's a lot of different methods out there. I want to share with you mine and what I did to transition from a brick and mortar to a virtual space in a 2-week time period in 2019. And then what I did for the next few years to not only get clients, but then to grow it. Okay. So, let's go back in time to 2019. I am super, super sick. When I get pregnant, I'm one of those people that spend their entire pregnancy trying not to throw up. With Easton, who just turned 8, I did all of the last 9 months of school. I was on an IV therapy. I was on IV therapy for every 2 weeks, and I don't know how I survived school, but I did. Then I got pregnant with Hallie, who is now 4, almost 5. So in 2019, I'm pregnant with her, and I physically can't get myself the 10 minutes to my office. And it was just this small 2-room space with a door connecting it. So we had this reception area, which was a room with a door connecting it into my office and the adjustment table. And I was like, something's got to change. I can't keep doing this for the next 20 years. Luckily, I was not in some kind of contract with this space where I could say, call up the landowner, and I could say, I'm going to be out in 2 weeks. October 31st is my last time using that space. You guys always scared spitless. In 2019, we were living off of my husband's income. We were probably maybe $1,200 a month is what we were living off of. But I felt this pull in my heart, and I needed to make it. I needed to just trust that things were going to work out. Oh, my heartbeat is pounding. I usually don't get into this story in this way because it's something that's just near and dear to my heart, but I want you guys to know that if I can do it, you can do it. My driving force was motherhood. I did not want to be tied to an office space 40, 50 hours a week, praying that somebody was going to walk into my office and want to get adjusted. You know, I drive around and I see these $25 adjustments come in right now, and it just makes me hurt that we're having to give those kind of services away for so cheap, and then just like, you know, pray that somebody comes walking in. It's a very sad industry to be in. Some people kill it and thrive, and some people it's just a struggle till the day they call it quits. So I had to then go back and tell my patients what my plan was. And remember, guys, this is 2019. Nobody knew what Zoom was at this point, okay? I opened up my office in 2018, and through that point, I would host workshops basically around northern Utah. And when I would host these workshops, I would rent out a little conference room in a hotel, and I would maybe run like $200 of Facebook ads. I would run it all myself. Back when I knew very little, but I was just like, if I can get some people in this room, I can do a presentation and I can get some clients from there. So at that point, I probably had 50% in-person clients anyways, and then 50% Zoom clients, because I would go all around and do these presentations. I would do it like once a month. So at this point, I remember going back and telling my patients, the few of them who were coming in the office, and I would say to them, like, hey, I'm making some changes. I remember one was like, I am never coming to you again. You have let me down, like went off on me. Okay. Now I smile now because little did we know, 6 months in the future, the world was going to completely shift, unbeknownst to any of us who had no control in it. And I just smile because, well, it's like, well, you had to go to virtual anyways. Okay. All right. So I'm on the virtual space. 2020 hits in March, and I got invited to host a practitioner Facebook group to basically be the one behind scenes running it. There were 1,800 practitioners in there, and the supplement company reached out to me and said, hey, you're already virtual. Can you teach practitioners what you're doing so that they can make the pivot successfully as well? Sure, I'll do that. They paid me a couple $100 for a video each week. And to me, that was a big deal back then. Like, wait, you're going to pay me $500 per video for a week, each week? Sweet. That's a good gig. Okay, so I started teaching people blood work. And here's the thing. Blood work was my avenue. It was the tool. It was the piece that got me away from the adjustments where I had to be physically in person, and it got me online. Little did I know that that niche that I had created, that specific person that I had created, would catch a wave. So it was that person of, I keep getting told my blood work is normal, yet I feel like crap. And what started happening was as I started to go to Facebook, that's all I did. I just went to my Facebook page. It was a personal Facebook page with like 1,200 friends and associates with it. And I would just go start teaching on my Facebook page. And the way I would teach on my Facebook page, I would do little short videos and I would say, hey, I'm going to host a workshop on such and such a date. If you are one of these people and you want to know what your blood work really says, come join my workshop and I will teach you a few components and we'll go from there. Okay, you'll start changing what you do and how you see labs that day. I would drive traffic from my Facebook to my workshops. So that's avenue number one when you're thinking about selling. Whatever you already have, wherever your current audience is, invite them to come join you on a workshop, on a event, whatever it is. Because that workshop creates a place for you to talk about sales. And in business, we need to have sales conversations. Maybe it's, hey, slide into my DMs. And if you're interested, let's chat. I've got a $97 lab review if you're interested in something like that. Okay. So your current audience on social media. Now, at that point, I did not have an email list. I didn't think emails were important. I'm going to be flat out honest because I had social media. And why do I need an email list if I have social media? Well, if you have an email list, you are wise and you can utilize the email list as well. So number two, in your selling, you can now go to your email list and say, hey, I help, then your I help statement. I want to host a workshop. I want to invite you onto the workshop where you're going to learn X, Y, Z. Remember the promise. They got to know why they should come attend that workshop and how long it's going to take. Maybe it's, I've got a new ebook, and you drop an ebook and you let them know there's something special coming soon. So one of the biggest ways that we can sell new programs to not only our current people, but our past clients and our audience, wherever they're found, is to just start talking about it. And that's the biggest key, is to just start talking about it. So I would just start talking about it wherever I had an audience, Facebook. Then from Facebook, I would invite them onto the workshop. And from the workshop, I started to gather up emails. It was very, very, as I call dirty back then, dirty versus clean systems. I was very dirty about it. I'd send them to Eventbrite, literally, and I would just copy and paste and send an email out at a time from my Gmail account. It's very dirty. But I want you guys to just know that you can run these programs without systems. You can run these programs tomorrow if you like. Okay. So I started hosting workshops, and that started to pick pace up. And on these workshops, I would invite them into a lab reading. Okay. Now, I would spend no money in ads. It was purely just from Facebook, organic, whoever was already there. At some point, I started spending, maybe a couple $100 in ads that I would run myself to a workshop to kind of expand out my audience because my current organic traffic was being saturated, is the right word for it. Okay. Then there was a thing that I did in 2020, and it was the best move I've ever made as far as growing my audience. And that was called podcasting. Now tell me in the chat box if you have ever been on a podcast. Say yes to guesting is what we call it. Not yet, but I like that. Amber and Cheryl, no, not yet. Cindy's been a guest, nice. Not yet, says Mary. Just invited to go on one. Nice job, Felicia. I like the not yet, so you know that they're coming. So in 2020, I think it was July of 2020, I launched my own podcast. At that time of launching my own podcast, I had never even been a guest on podcasts. I had never even listened to a podcast episode ever. I just knew that, hey, I like to tell stories and I like to present. And what if I were to take the same things I was doing in my workshops, put them onto a bigger platform where not only could they be heard on my live workshop, but they could be heard for years to come. Because the thing with podcasting is once it's there, it's there. That's the beauty of it. Whereas post on social media, that's not the case. Okay. So then I started to become a guest on podcasts. And I want to share this with you guys because the podcasting industry is geared, I think it's potential to hit over multiple $billion before 2030. Podcasting is huge. It's also the number one way to grow and attract your audience. Here's the secret though. You don't have to have your own podcast. You get to leverage other people's podcasts. Okay. So I show up on my guests. I'm on a guest on every single podcast I can ever even get myself onto, radio shows, all the things. And well, I knew that I had done the right things when I'd finished an interview, and the host would then say to me, let me go grab my labs. I'm your next patient. That's why I would never say no to somebody who was reaching out about me being a guest on a podcast. I never, ever, ever paid attention to their numbers. I never paid attention to their followers. I never paid attention to any of the statistics. You never know what one connection can lead to. So I want you to think right now. Do you have one connection that you can reach out to? And maybe it's that you're going to go live on their Instagram. Or they might just share your post about your new workshop or your new ebook or your new program in general. Think about just one connection. You're just one connection away. If I can do it, if I can go virtual, you can go virtual. And not just go virtual, but thrive. Okay. Would the hosts often become a patient? Yeah, they would. And then the fun part is I would know that when a new podcast episode, I didn't really know exactly which one, because I was doing as many of them as I possibly could. You guys, most podcast guesting is free. Podcast hosts want you to become a guest because that means that's one less episode of content that they have to kind of figure out. So I hardly spend any money in marketing. I just know how to utilize these resources. Okay. Okay, so I get on. I knew when a podcast episode would go live because suddenly I would have an influx of clients. In fact, there was one podcast episode on one specific podcast. I remember this very well because it aired on a Friday. By the time that Monday hit, I had 21 new patients who all paid me $495 for a lab interpretation over the weekend. Because I had this page that was like, hey, if you're interested, go to this page. You can book your lab consultations $495, and then we'll get started from there. In that moment, that's when I realized 21 people over the weekend. I can't keep doing this one-to-one thing. I'm going to get maxed out. And I only want to work 3 days a week. I got littles. I got babies. I got toddlers. I only got 18 summers with my kids. I will not waste them. Okay. So at some point along the way, I had to figure out how do I take this from a one-to-one concept and make it one-to-many? Then I thought, what if I taught people how to read their own blood work? Rather than me reading it for them, I could host a 6-week program, timeline, where I could teach them how to be a better lab reader than their doctor. Promise. I had no idea how much fire that would catch. Okay, so you have no idea how powerful your idea is until you start talking about it. Until you take it out into the world and you say, I'm here, I can help you, this is how I can help you. I'd be honored for you to join my world. Okay. That said, you have an idea. Can I get a commitment from you in the chat box that you're going to take it out into the world? Were you scared at all to do that? Amber, I was terrified. Terrified. I wish I had recordings of my very first Zoom workshops I ever hosted. I wish I had recordings of me standing in hotel conference rooms with one person who showed up. I wish I had all that. I probably could. Maybe if Facebook hasn't deleted them. If you went back to 2018 and 2019 and for my Facebook page and looked at the videos, you would be, oh girl. The Kylie I see now is the Kylie that's very different from that. But it's starved. And that's the key. Start. Because every single one of you have a gift. And the world needs your gift. I had no idea what I would do would basically start a trend. So much so that now I'm like, I'm scrolling through Facebook and I see this. pull it up real quick. Trisha, apparently we have a lot of text messages going back and forth before I see the. So I see this image. This one's for weight loss. She did another one for labs. I'm like, wait a second. Why are my labs normal? Like, that's my thing. And I look into it, I'm like, oh, she's inside my program, running a little bit of ads to her workshop for why are my labs normal kind of people. And she's had probably, I think she's up to like 4 or 5 new clients from it. Okay. So another one, she's got about a 10,000 email list between their chiropractic offices, which is a pretty large email list. And she's taking her new 30-day program to that email list. This is her 3rd time running her 30-day program, and she's just ran it as I call dirty. She puts a sign up in the office with a QR code, and then she sends out an email that says, hey, if you're interested, make a phone call to the receptionist and she'll get you the invoice and you can join us in our 30-day cellular, I can't remember what she's calling it, but cellular magic healing, something like that. Okay, I tell you those 2 exact scenarios because they already have an audience and they're utilizing them, which just means that you can do the exact same thing. And if you need to expand your audience, the best way to do it is to what we call leverage other people's audiences. You're just one connection away. That's it. Okay. Do you guys want to get into the workbook? We do have a workbook for today. All right, Felicia, you're a workbook girl. First of all, before we jump into the workbook, and I'll kind of go through this in a little bit faster pace, I just want to invite you guys back into the business essentials because in the business essentials, I teach you how to pitch, how to write an email to a podcast host so that you get on those podcasts. I teach you how to leverage other people's audiences so that it's beneficial to you. Because so oftentimes people will say, oh, just go to my website and learn more. Wrong. Don't do that. There's a method and a madness to this. Okay. Now, you can go and try to figure it all out on your own, or you can say, Kylie, I'm in. I want your help. I need the step-by-step processes. I need plug and play templates. I need your assistance on the group calls each month. I'm so game for it. Okay. So let me put this link back in the chat box. And then up until April 3rd, if you need the blood work, it's there for free. If you need that clinical piece, it's all in the training portal, ready for you to learn as fast as you want to learn it and implement it as fast as you want to implement it. So you could get inside the blood work and you can say, all right, I finished this in 8 hours. That's all it takes is 8 hours. And you go to your audience, you go to your Facebook or you go to wherever your audience is and you say, hey, I'm starting to read people's blood work in a unique way. If you're interested, I've got 3 beta testers open. If you want me to just beta test this and start practicing before I make it a paid thing, let's roll. See? That simple. All right. Yes, Cheryl's gone through the blood work now. Now, Cheryl, it's time for the business side. Let's rock this business side. Okay, here we go. Workbook for day 3. Sell your idea. Now that's how I sold mine, is I just took it and I was terrified to go live on Facebook. I was terrified to be seen. In fact, let me tell you one other story before we get into this. Sorry. Amber, this is for you. As I heard about this podcast guesting thing, I was like, oh my gosh, I could be on some radio shows. I could be on, I immediately think of the top dogs. I want to be there. So I send out a pitch email to this radio host, and I get accepted, and I'm all excited. Guess what day of the year the episode aired? December 26th. Now you tell me, how many people listen to a podcast episode the day after Christmas? Big fat zero. Okay, it was one of the worst interviews I have ever done. But hey, you had to get started somewhere. And at some point, I did say I was on this radio show, but learned to do everything that came my way, I would say yes to, as far as becoming a guest, because like I said, it wasn't whether it was their fifth episode or they had, 100 downloads versus 100,000 downloads. I didn't care. It was that one connection that I wanted. So think about your one connection as we get into this. Okay, so we've got a brilliant program. Now we need to take it out into the world. I'm not going to teach you how to sell. I'm going to teach you how to connect, because there's a difference. We want to connect the right people to the solution that they already need. Okay, now we're going to talk about ways to do this without paid ads, without paid traffic. Now, can you pay to be on people's specific podcasts? Yes, you can. I've done it a couple times. I will never do it again. How to sell your program without spending any ads on money. So let's go back to our stories from day one. So we have Janelle, who's the nutritionist. She wants to start her own business on the side, and she's the one that went to the book club, the men's book club. Okay. So as I'm working through this with her on our group calls, she starts off with her local community. Now, don't forget the power of your local community when you're going virtual. You can still do Zoom calls in your local area. So first, she's going to continue with the men's book club. And then she's going to start connecting with family planning centers, OBGYN offices that align with her philosophy, right? We don't need to be walking into any OB's office who doesn't believe in alternative medicine or functional medicine or foundational medicine or reading blood work a better way. Just find the right people that believe in you and can help send clients to you. Okay. All right. So then she reviewed her email list of past clients. Now, Ellie from yesterday, Ellie is the one that she has this 6-week program for energy healing. In our group call, I said to Ellie, I said, where are your people at? She's probably 70 years old. She's like, I don't do social media. I don't have an email list. And I said, if you were to go back over the last year to your old clients, do you have their contact information? And she's like, yeah. I said, how many contacts do you think you could pull? 100. All right, Ellie, get to work. Start pulling from those 100 contacts. Send them an email, shoot them a text message, maybe even ask, hey, can we jump on a phone call together? I want to talk to you about something new I have to offer. It's getting incredible results, and it's only a 6-week program. When you say it like that, and then you say the timeline, people are like, I can do 6 weeks. I don't have to invest in a 12-month intensive program. I can do 6 weeks, right? So she is going into her world where people have already paid for her services at one point, especially when she is energy healer. They already understand that world, okay? So where can you pull from? Think about these 3 questions. Local organizations, businesses, professionals who serve the same audience you want to reach. Create mutually beneficial partnerships. People say business is not about what you know, but who you know. What local resources do you have? I will tell you, I hosted many workshops in gym facilities. I remember one where I went, it was a Saturday morning. It was a women's only gym facility, and I was hosting a workshop on hormones. And I was so excited for it. I get there with my whiteboard and I'm ready to go. And two people show up. And one of them wasn't even there for herself. She was there for her daughter who was trying to get pregnant and couldn't. But those two people became patients. And the daughter too. So don't think about having it some astronomical large number. Start with one, then get two. If you're ready to go astronomical, like with big numbers and you want to get 30 people in your 6-week program, go for that too. Okay, Sherry is the chiropractor who wants to do both, the 50 and older who are thriving, but also do some chiropractic as well. She has her old chiropractic office, which she's basically shut down because of having to go back and forth between her parents in North Carolina, I think, in the Carolinas, and then Florida, where she is. But she does have an email list. So she's going to go back to her email list and then join the pickleball clubs. And at the pickleball clubs, she can, start building relationships and see if she could be offering chiropractic services once or twice a week or once or twice a month, whatever her schedule allows, to those people at the pickleball clubs. Now she's not even having to pay for overhead. So there are a lot of different ways you can go about this. Okay, now remember, leveraging your past clients and your current email list and whatever you currently have. Like I said, when I went virtual, I was basically like, I need to do this for my family. I need to do this for my own sanity. I'm going to go after my Facebook because that's where people are at. And I'm just going to start somewhere. One more funny story, okay? Y'all know I'm a chiropractor. I haven't adjusted anybody in probably 4 years. Maybe I'll get out the little clicker and I'll do some clicking activator. When my husband wants an adjustment, he goes to his old chiropractor. And when he first scheduled the appointment, the chiropractor told the assistant, like, you have the wrong person. This guy is been to a chiropractor. Why would he come to me to receive chiropractic care? I don't do it anymore. That's okay. It's okay. All right, here's Anna. Anna's a med spa, right? So she is going to start her social media, tell it like it is perspective on how beauty comes from within by creating content that challenges the superficial beauty standards promoted by the industry she knows so well and is building her following of women who resonate with her message. Okay, her social media presence and being willing to go on that even though she's still having to fight through the fears and still doing it is her ticket to retirement and a fulfilling pivot in her career. As she builds out this online audience, she can then introduce her new virtual programs that help beautify yourself from the inside out. All right, now when it comes to social media, you don't need to be everywhere, but I would highly recommend you be somewhere. So pick that somewhere platform. Okay. Jessica is a 30-year massage therapist. She's going virtual inside our Business Essentials program. And what she says is, I've never had a training walk me through a process like this. It's pretty cool stuff. All right, next step. What does your dream virtual practice look like? Is it a combination? Is it fully virtual? What does it look like? If there were absolutely no obstacles in your way, what would you create? what feels aligned with who you are right now and who you want to become. That's very different. In 2019, chiropractic did not align with the woman I saw myself in the next 5 years. So I pivoted. Do I still use, all the other science that I learned in chiropractic? Yeah. Just don't adjust. Okay. Have you felt like you've graduated past what you do now, or will you soon graduate past and you want to step into the new version of yourself? What impact would you love to have that extends beyond your local area? But one last invitation is to keep our momentum going, and let's get into the Business Essentials 6-month program where we can get you virtual with growing your audience, with writing emails, all the things that you need there, put on a platter for you to utilize. And then, of course, you've got the clinical stuff if you need it to. All right, guys. So save $1,000, save $2,000, join before April 3rd. Our group calls start on April 8th, where we get to dive in, just like we've done with previous people, with you, and grow, grow, grow. Okay, that is our 3-day Go Virtual Challenge.